We started out with about 35 people meeting at the auditorium at Winter Haven High School, and I think we're now to about 380 people.
You know, at the beginning, the stress of it felt like, oh, are people going to come? Are people going to come? And then it really quickly turned into, what do we do with all these people that are coming?
From day one, yeah, we said we wanted to be the kind of church that if we left or if we ceased to exist the next day or the next week, the city would miss us.
And we saw a need in Winter Haven that we didn't think was being met. A church that was outwardly focused, but inwardly very strong. We dreamt about it for a long time, talked about it. In 2008, we finally were able to see that dream come true.
We had heard by word of mouth that a new church was being started in Winter Haven, and we had been at Drift for several years, bouncing between different denominations, trying to find what we considered to really be the gospel.
We got out of that first service and kind of looked at each other in the car on the way home and said, I kind of like that.
Literally, when we walked into Winter Haven High School to go to church, it was a very surreal experience.
We decided to go back the next week, and then 10 years later, here we are.
The second Sunday, when we walked out of service, Heather and I both looked at each other and said, I think we're really on to something here.
The amount of involvement, instead of just showing up to church and listening to the sermon and going home with the church plant, you had to do all the behind scenes. And
we were tired and broken and did not want to be in ministry anymore. And what Redeemer did for us for those 6 years was really heal our family. It was in small and practical ways. When we were asked to do missions, when we were asked to go to Nicaragua, we were ready because of all of you, all of the people, all the members of Redeemer.
I was really just kind of smug and arrogant. I thought I knew it all. And then I started coming here and I realized that these guys, they did think the same thing as I thought, but their theology had feet to it. They loved people, and that was just this thing over and over and over again, the idea of loving and thinking about others more than yourself. And after a few weeks and months of being here, I kept thinking, man, something about what I think in my head has not made it all the way down to my heart yet.
The way that we found out about this church was just through the places where we live, work, and play. We talk about that so much here at Redeemer, about just impacting people out in the world. And that's exactly what happened. I realized that the friendships I had with the families I knew who went to Redeemer were so life-giving because we shared the gospel in common. Our family was invited in.
What we saw was a need for an organization to be a city-reaching organization. What that meant was to see folks that are poor, that are marginalized, that are left out, to be reached in practical ways. I could have never dreamed that 4 years later, in 2014, we would actually be able to form a nonprofit, a gift to the city called Heart for Winter Haven.
As a single mom coming into a new church, the people at Redeemer, staff, Heart for Winter Haven, all got together and found a place for my family to live during a time where it was really uncertain and we didn't really know what the future held. Our mission is to make Jesus' invisible kingdom visible in Winter Haven, Polk County, and the world. We don't want to be a church that's so consumed with what happens here at 1410 Dundee Road. We want to be a church that's really a city on a hill, where our people go out into the valley and love on our community, whether it's through partnerships with Life Choice and Heart for Winter Haven, or the work of church planting.
Through the ministry of Life Church Pregnancy Center, Redeemer is bringing hope and compassion outside of its walls. You are changing the city. You are changing generations. It is a matter of life and death. And Life Choice is able to do that thanks to the generosity of churches like Redeemer.
And in 10 years, I just hope that there's a lot more churches like our network of churches where people are learning about the freedom that there is in the gospel, and they're finding real community with believers. And one thing that we keep hearing over and over is that I've found a place to belong.
My name is Jeff Skipper. I'm the pastor at Redeemer Southwest Church. We are a church plant of Redeemer City, and we launched close to 3 years ago. And so as our people have been faithful in building relationships and being bold in sharing the gospel, we just had a front row seat to seeing people come to faith and come to know Jesus.
Well, I wanted to be a part of this, and I wanted to see what could happen if these people were faithful to their mission. Because you don't often hear about a church having a 50-year vision.
And our vision has never been to grow big, but to be big enough that we could support church plants, because we felt that that was the way to reach the communities through multiple churches preaching the gospel.
If you want to gain, you have to lose. If you want to see life happen, resurrection only comes after the death, has always been in the DNA of our churches, all the way from Trinity 20 years ago through our whole network. And so that's something I've learned not only in my personal life, but also as we look forward to ministry the next 10 years. What does it look like for our people to not cling too tightly to what's comfortable, to what might make us grow and feel better, and yet send those things out and hold them with an open hand, so that fruit might be born in a different part of our city for the sake of God's kingdom.